The last Dragon Palace guard is trying to entice Little Panda to leave the Misty Mountain forces and to defect to the human side along with his brothers that have already done so. Otherwise, in the future, it would be inevitable that he would have to eventually fight against his own flesh and blood. No one who has a close relationship with their kin would wish for that. Iron Eater Panda heard the case that the Dragon Palace guard laid out in contemplative silence, but in the end, he just flat out refused the offer. The Golden Mask cornered enemy did not expect that his expertly laid down enticement did not work on the little guy. Little Panda does not want to betray the God Tree at all, but he also does not want to fight against his brothers. But if that day really comes, he will gladly lay his life down and fight with all that he has against his brothers. Knowing that negotiations have completely broken down, there's nothing else better to say. The last Dragon Palace guard conjured up his energy blade and threatened to unleash his strongest move to end this farce. He knows full well that he will die in the process, but he was hell-bent on making these beasts pay a hefty price as revenge for his fallen brothers. The man really was emitting an abnormally strong aura that tickled the beasts' instincts to get out of the area as soon as they could. It is evident that even if they were able to somehow dodge this incoming attack, they won't be unscathed. No matter if they take it head-on or try their best to dodge, it'll be a losing situation. The preparations are done, and the Dragon Palace guard's final gambit is ready to be served. This is the final counterattack of a transcendent rank 2 practitioner with no more regards for his own life and safety. The purple energy sword swung down. Heaven's Slash was about to be unleashed upon the world, and it was so sharp that it could cut down mountains. But the Beast faction has the Polar Bear King's sheer weight. He might be a late addition to the team, but this guy's timing is just too godly. Ninetales and Iron Eater Panda watched in awe and shock as this cuddly giant bear just ended their problem with a simple maneuver. The two might be prodigies when it comes to offensive combat power, but even they were sure that they could not do what the bear did just now. To make things worse for the poor Dragon Palace guard, the Polar King Bear did not even mean to do that. He just tried to get into the fight as fast as possible, and just happened to kill the enemy. On the other side of the battlefield, Thorn has been giving the Sea Guardian City Lord a tough time with her deadly vines. Zhao Jiyao knew that he was in the worst-case scenario now. Everyone has been wiped out, and if this goes on for much longer, he's certain that he'll die too. He tried his best to focus on his vision to at least have some semblance of a chance to dodge and survive to find an opening to escape. But Thorn turns into a completely different beast in the face of her enemies. Her gentle demeanor disappears, and what takes over is a brutal killing machine. Zhao Jiyao slipped up for a fraction of a second, and that was enough for Thorn to pierce the greedy city lord's body cleanly. The Divine Flower turned to the recovering big fellow Demon Cow as they watched the Beast faction win all their battles. Demon Cow already expected this to happen, so it was not a surprise for him at all. This is the Misty Mountain's true combatability after all. No matter what the enemies put forth, they will answer with relentless domination. In short, they got that dog in them. While this war was raging on, there seemed to be some parties that stayed away far from the action, only observing what was happening. There were two beasts watching the struggle for the Divine Flower unfold. They looked as though they are in the Fox clan. It's a good thing that they didn't get greedy and jumped into the commotion. Otherwise, their corpses would be among the many out there. Both knew that the Misty Mountain's power is not the type of force that they can handle right now, but the Foxes do not seem too worried about that. What surprised them more was that other than the God Tree himself, there's also an outstanding beast among the Misty Mountain Beast Force that possesses an unfathomable combat ability, and she's a member of the Fox race too. The Black Fox was certain that Ninetales' bloodline is not normal. Even if they maintain a healthy distance from the front lines, her pressure can still be felt. White Fox took this as motivation to become as strong as that Fire Fox too. Near the Divine Lake, the entire topography of the area has been destroyed and altered from all the intense fights. Wang Hao, the White Emperor, is sitting on the rubble with various injuries all over his body. He wanted to appeal to her human side, saying that this is not like her at all to be controlled by the Spirit Flower, as if she knows Xiaoling on a deeper level. She insisted that this was just a small accident. Yes, a small accident that essentially got everyone killed. Wang Hao himself had to use 50 years of his lifespan as spirit energy just to try and contain her. The White Emperor kept on yapping and yapping about how big the price he had to pay to bring back Xiaoling's sanity when she had it all throughout the fight. Now she's just wondering if Demon Cow and the rest have successfully escaped, not paying attention to Wang Hao's rants. She then turned around and walked while making an excuse that she'll go check if there is a chance to snatch the Divine Flower. With his horribly aged face and depleted spirit energy, Wang Hao kept on proclaiming that he saved Xiaoling's life and in exchange, she must marry him.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
He said all that only to get ghosted by the girl that was just messing with him and having a fun time in battle. The other city lord wasn't as fortunate to keep his life. His corpse was now littered alongside the Dragon Guard palaces. Due to his greed and refusal to yield the treasure to a stronger force, his life has now been forfeited. But it looks like it's only his physical body that has perished. Zhao Jiyao had the secret ability to separate his soul from his physical form, a rare and useful ability for situations like this one. He never thought that the Misty Mountains reinforcement would be this strong. Even the other parties vying for the Divine Flower were slaughtered. Even though he lost his body, he still has the possibility to restart with his soul intact. Just as he was thinking about that, a corporeal being the same as his soul suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and its target was locked in on the poor sap. Zhao Jiyao was as vulnerable as he can be in this form, and he did not even see the threat until now. At the end of the day, even his only hope of starting over was devoured by the spiritual form of a centipede. Of course, that centipede belongs to none other than Xiao Ling. Zhao Jiyao is double dead now, in body and in spirit. All of his remaining life force and spirit energy has been transformed and spat out as a tiny orb of pure power. With that, the war for the Divine Flower has officially ended. It is over. The next day came, and the news of this excursion shocked the entire Federation. Experts that went to snatch a precious treasure were wiped out. No one survived. Dragon Palace guards ranking 7, 8, and 9 have been confirmed dead. Genius Zhao Jiyao and the Food City's city lord died in battle. The Federation also suspected that the Flame Princess Xiao Ling was dead, but her remains aren't found in the scene. The same goes for White Emperor Wang Hao. Apart from everyone that has died in battle in brutal ways, their whereabouts are still unknown. Right now, the human forces are in shambles, and the entire Federation is in dire straits. They just cannot stop catching elves one after another. Not only has there been an outbreak of rats, and this is not your typical rats, they are rat beasts that grow up to the size of a damn building. Even the wolf packs have also come out of the woodwork to attack and wreak havoc on numerous grassland tribes. At the moment, the relentless beast invasion coming from all angles has amassed a death toll that totals 30,000 and still counting. It seems like Xiao Ling and Wang Hao have finally returned a few days later, both with varying degrees of injuries. Furthermore, the investigation team has discovered something disturbing in the Withered Wood Forest. Creatures with mutant beast characteristics that resemble humans have started popping up. As far as the Federation leader knows, they should have stopped the genetic experiments on artificial life. So, it is news to him that someone had initiated the unethical genetic experiments again. After some investigative work, the team found that all the data from the Genetic Force's original base had been stolen. All the informed experimental personnel have gone missing with the records too. They either met their end, or worse, they might be being held against their will to continue the research. News from the other side of the world was equally, if not more, dire. The Australian administration has sent over footage of a gigantic ancient creature rampaging and destroying cities across the country down under. They already have a death toll of 100,000, and it is continuously rising. Now, the entire human population in Australia is barely hanging on by a thread. Bro, imagine all the beasts that have evolved in the wilderness of Australia. They already have killers there in the real world without the spiritual tide. What's more pressing is that the Coastal Defense Forces of the Federation just sent a message earlier today that the ancient creature is not heading towards them. It is traversing the vast oceans with the land of the Federation in mind, and in a month it will make its inevitable landfall. Now, all the regional commanders are in meetings trying to figure out how in the hell are they going to handle this matter. The Federation head already knows that he would not like the answer, but he still asks what's the approximate level of that creature heading for their land. 2 months ago, the data that they've received indicated that it was a beast of the Third Order, but the latest update today revealed that the information from 2 months ago is now obsolete. That mysterious ancient beast has already broken through the Fourth Order of Transcendence. Hearing those words almost made the headstrong leader buckle on his feet. This is currently the most powerful anomaly that the world has ever discovered. Be it in size or level, it is one of, if not the mightiest beasts in existence. And that's not even considering the fact that it could become even more powerful in a month when it reaches the inland. This beast is already more powerful than the creatures in the Misty Mountains. This is the type of threat that demands the summons of all available and retired officers regardless of their rank. Everyone needs to be informed in a meeting that will decide whether the Federation will still exist a month from now. The head also wanted to address this issue to the public, so he wants a scheduled national conference for the day after tomorrow. When his officer tried to bring up the issue of Misty Mountains capturing the Divine Flower, The Federation head stopped him. He did not even want to think about that now. They can wait for a month and address it if the Federation manages to survive somehow. Meanwhile, the God Tree was just literally chilling in the cold of the northern outskirts. Bald Head was strong, but these abnormal mutated baby beasts are too much for him to handle. They will literally turn him bald at this point. The two-headed wolf pup felt bad that he set their caretaker on fire, so the next logical thing to do is freezing the poor guy, encasing him in a solid block of ice. God Tree was just watching from afar. Now be certain that not everyone can just play and take care of these babies. After the last kidnapping incident, he had this kid Bald Head bring the baby beasts here in the northern outskirts for safety's sake. He also wanted to take the chance to enhance the wolf's strength by feeding it with ice and fire spirit stones. The mutant Saiyan Wolf is a two-headed First Order of Transcendence beast that has the innate ability called Elemental Twins, letting it govern fire and ice. It also sports the special abilities of Savage Bite for physical prowess, Glacial Flow, and Blazing Fire for elemental attacks, and each of its heads can think independently with multiple consciousness. As for the giant mutant green snake, a three-headed First Order Transcendence beast, it possesses the innate ability of immortality. It has the venom, scaled armor, and abnormal growth special abilities too. But what piqued the God Tree's attention is the special ability of aquatic combat proficiency. He thinks that for the sake of better development, the mutant green snake should be in the sea. To make that happen, he immediately called onto the orca. The orca that dared to mount an attack to him all those days ago has now been inducted to the beast force. Ever since the God Tree tamed this creature last time, it pledged allegiance to him along with its whole clan. This is also the first time that he has tamed marine creatures, so that is a significant milestone. As for the snake, he's confident that the orca clan will be a suitable group to entrust with the cultivation of the mutated beast. They will take good care of the little guy. These orcas look fierce on the surface, but its voice is so sweet and sycophantic. The kind of voice that will make you really want to give it a few slaps here and there. That is kind of sussy, not gonna lie. He reminded the mutant snake to follow the orca well, and when this baby reaches the Second Order, God Tree will personally come back and pick up the new addition to the team. As the orca swims off to the ocean, both the snake and the God Tree are looking forward to the day that they will meet again. The next one would be the wolf pup. The little guy is tasked to eat the spirit stones until it can freely control the ice elemental power. As for the last one, the mutated monkey, it will be left to the care of the golden silk monkey to train. Bald Head has finally broken through the encasement of ice, and he did not have a good time at all. As soon as he broke free, he immediately looked for the three baby demons for his revenge, but they were nowhere to be found. With no outlet to pour his anger and vengeance on, Bald Head angrily screamed his frustrations. When he finally calmed down, the roots of the God Tree tapped him from behind. Yuzi has decided that he will personally train this troublemaker. Both the monkey and boar's strength have already far surpassed Bald Head's due to sheer laziness. His progress has fallen through a crawl, and he was not progressing nearly fast enough. If Bald Head continues to be such a lazy ass, God Tree might seriously consider killing the unruly honey badger. The trading has already started, and the new beasts watched in fear as their God Tree basically tortured Bald Head. They went at it for basically a whole day, not stopping even when the sun has set, the dark has settled in, and even when the morning shine has come back. 5 days of non-stop combat training later, Bald Head has trimmed off all the fat in his body and achieved a frame of a bodybuilder with steroid issues. These 5 days have been excruciatingly exhausting, but the rascal has kept up. Luckily, the hellish training was not in vain. Now it is certain that anyone below First Order won't be Bald Head's match anymore. After that, one of the Peregrine Falcons just arrived in time to deliver news. It seems like the party that they have been waiting for has finally come back. Bald Head was feeling prideful. He was excited to let everyone see the results of his special 5-day training. He has achieved the peak of First Order Transcendence after all. The group that slaughtered several experts from the human side and succeeded in the divine flower retrieval has finally arrived at the northern outskirts to report back to the God Tree. White Tiger and Thorn are now at the peak of First Order and can break through to the Second anytime now. While Demon Cow, Ninetails, Qinggang, Polar Bear King, and Iron Eater Panda are all at the Second Order of Transcendence, miles ahead compared to Bald Head. Now that he's looking at it, the 5-day special training was hardly anything to be proud about when compared to the other beasts of the Misty Mountain. Bald Head's inflated ego took a big hit, and he was now back to his old self. The God Tree's eyes were locked in on the colorful petals of the divine flower, though. Now that everyone has gathered, it's time for the God Tree to receive the complete account of what happened. His eyes could not move away from the colorful divine flower that everyone was fighting for, to the point of costing some of them their lives. He used his system to open the attribute panel as curiosity got the best of him, wanting to see just how extraordinary the flower really is. When the attribute panel opened, he was blinded by the bright lights it started emitting. Even just a supposedly simple attribute panel is so extraordinary, Godtree could not wait to see its contents. The divine flower's name is the Celestial Earth's enigmatic flower. It's only a transcendent first order for now. It has the unawakened innate ability called Momentary, the ability to freeze time at a cost of a cool 1 million spiritual energy in an instant. It has the special abilities of Allure to attract and control living beings within a radius of thousands of kilometers. It can bestow the blessing of spirit power to another being. It can command both spirit flowers and spirit herbs to thrive. And finally, it can gather spiritual power at an abnormal level. Yuziyu was stunned by the flower's capabilities as he read it line by line. The ability to freeze time in particular made him sweat. The abilities of this tiny flower are actually related to time of all things. That can be huge. After seeing such a cool rundown of abilities, the Godtree could not help but blurt out that he was so envious that the flower could control time. He was now only realizing that he might have come off too intense. The divine flower proceeded to hide behind the big fellow, while the demon cow tried to reassure her not to be nervous as no one in this place will have any ill intentions. Another trait that stood out to the Godtree was the flower's language. Since she has this ability, it might be possible for her to help cultivate some spirit flowers and spirit herbs. She confirmed that with ample energy, she can aid them to mature in half a month. But she'll also need to absorb 1/5 of the spirit flowers and spirit herbs as food. That was no problem for the Godtree at all. It's a win-win. He immediately delegated the mission to gather seeds of spirit flowers and herbs to the trusty Nine Tails while the Celestial Earth's enigmatic flower stays here for a while. Iron Eater Panda interjected that he'll head back to the Misty Mountains first as he's craving some bamboo to eat. Godtree had no problem with that, so he sent off the little guy while thanking him for his hard work. But before that, the divine flower wanted to have a word with little Panda first. She will have to stay in the northern outskirts temporarily, but she reassured the little buddy that she'll go to the Misty Mountains soon. All she asks is that he waits for her. The Godtree and Thorn blushed at this rare sight of this confession from two unlikely characters. Bald Head and White Tiger had no clue what was happening. Divine Flower blushed, turning her colorful petals into a bright shade of red. She confessed that she finds Iron Eater Panda really handsome and that she has a crush on him. The little guy's response was less than ideal, though. It's like he did not even understand that the divine flower was confessing her feelings to him. He just gave her the cold shoulder with an equally icy remark, "Don't bother me." The bystanders at the back could not take their eyes off the scene in front of them. It was like watching a car crash. Divine Flower went back to the group. She had no eyes, but she was crying somehow. The little panda just outrightly dumped her. Times like this, Godtree becomes introspective. He reckons that love always comes with bitterness. While things are chill at the northern outskirts, the coastal areas of the Federation were the polar opposite of chill. Aircraft carriers, fighter jets, naval ships, and everything that the Federation can spare has set out to the ocean. They intend to surround the ancient creature that terrorized Australia right here and right now before it could even set foot on the inlands where it can freely decimate everything. At first, it was like the threat of everything that human technology can muster did not even register to the monster's radar. But then its beady red eyes started moving around, scanning the vicinity, ready to strike at any moment. The Federation did not spare any effort nor budget in mobilizing this impressive fleet with all that they have. The naval force has finally gotten close enough to the ancient creature to lock their sights onto it. It's time to prepare for battle. Once the order to fire was issued, everything that they have from low-caliber bullets, high-caliber bullets, explosives, missiles, and everything else were let loose. The fighter jets dropped all their loads in sync with each other to maximize the force of the resulting blast. In the duration of that seemingly endless barrage, the peaceful ocean looked like a sea of fire and smoke while the ancient creature just stood there, unfazed. The intensity of the blast and firepower kept on creeping up from one level to the next until the ancient creature's massive body has been surrounded by the color of humanity's will to survive. They have pushed forth so hard that they have finally forced the creature to make a different new move as it starts opening its disgusting upside-down mouth from the middle of its dark body. From that circular hole surrounded by sharp teeth, a sonic boom blasted out into the direction of the naval forces. The force behind that sonic blast was so strong that it detonated all the incoming attacks prematurely and continued moving forward without losing any momentum. Fighter jets and bomb carriers were not safe from that sonic blast too. It essentially blasted all the aircraft in the vicinity from inside out. The ancient creature had no concept of mercy. It continued letting out the booming noise to the point of reaching the battleships and aircraft carriers at the rear. To hopefully get out of this increasingly bleak situation, the Federation has authorized the preparation and use of intercontinental ballistic missiles. The enormous weapon of mass destruction was locked and launched at the monster. It quickly reached the destination at breakneck speeds. The timing was perfect as the sonic blast has just started to stop, and the ancient creature's creepy mouth was still left wide open. The intercontinental ballistic missile launch was a success. They set out to target a spot and they nailed it right in. The resulting explosion was the biggest one thus far. Ships that were even remotely near the blast zone felt the impact of the blast. They were even caught up by the excess force that swept through the waters. The culmination of humanity's preemptive attack against the ancient creature should result in a rare victory for once, right? Everyone was wondering that same thing. After exhaustive efforts to get to this spot, humanity can only ask if what they did worked. When the dust and flaming material finally subsided a little, everyone got their answer. Instead of celebration, it only caused despair. The ancient creature came out of the destruction unscathed. At least now they know that intercontinental ballistic missiles are completely ineffective. That is one thing to erase from their list of possible solutions. As the smoke from the missile was still coming out of the monster's grotesque mouth, it eyed the ships that dared to pull some tricks. It was pretty much over for the rest of the military and naval forces of the Federation at that point. The head of the Federation and the higher-ups watched the efforts from a closed-door meeting. They watched how weak and hopeless they were in the face of a true monster. From this, they have gathered that human thermal weapons are useless against a transcendent fourth-order anomaly. The problem is that ICBs are their most powerful weapons currently. The Federation has never faced a problem at this scale before. This might just be even worse than dealing with the Misty Mountains. The ancient beast is way too mysterious and powerful to be stopped by conventional means. Little did everyone know, the countdown to the all-out war between the ancient creatures and the God Tree, UZU, has started. There are only 40 days left now. Clueless to this doomsday countdown, the God Tree was busy with the various activities in the northern outskirts. Right now, he's doing something with the Divine Flower. He just couldn't stop being in awe of how extraordinary her abilities are. The flower was directly absorbing copious amounts of spiritual power into her tiny body. Anyone would be envious of that ability alone. While he was thinking about that, a prompt appeared in front of him saying that an unidentified power has been detected. He was given the option to spend 100,000 evolution points to unlock. This was a pleasant surprise. A new ability is always an automatic take for the God Tree, so he excitedly confirmed its activation. To his surprise, he just unlocked the innate ability of Temporal Pause. He can now freeze time the cost of 1 million spiritual energy upfront, but his current application level limits him to 0.01 seconds. With the assistance of the Celestial Earth's enigmatic flower's power, he has also unlocked the ability to control time, even though it is still at a minuscule level. She transferred all the gathered spiritual power directly into the God Tree's body, allowing him to obtain the new ability. In doing so, she now appears to be on the verge of death, with all the paddles withered. The Divine Flower insisted that it's all good and that she just needs some rest, but her cough is starting to sound like she's about to die soon. UZU immediately extended his thick and long vine and covered her entire body with multiple drops of his essence of life.
What do you mean by that?
The miracle substance made it so that she suddenly doesn't feel tired anymore. This liquid really is a magical cure-all. God Tree is pleased that he can also flex his overpowered abilities in front of the overpowered flower. Time stop is temporarily set at 0.01 minutes at the cost of 1 million spirit energy units. It is very useful but very difficult to use perfectly. The 1000th comprehension clause makes it seem like he can always increase the duration later though. This was a pretty good pickup for just a few minutes of work. Both he and the Divine Flower were hyped to continue their cultivation while UZU takes care of recovery. Back in the Misty Mountains, it looks like the beasts have managed to pilfer a product of human technology. It's not a weapon or anything. It's better. A projector. Iron Eater Panda saw Qing Gang setting up the thing, and he explained that he's preparing some sort of movie night. It's one of the ways humans entertain themselves after all. He brought these devices all the way from Qingfeng City. Now they can watch any movie if they connect it to a smartphone. The problem is that the signal in the Misty Mountains is not very strong. Little Panda was quite familiar with the concept, as he used to hear humans talk about this stuff back when he was in the zoo. Despite the challenges in the signal, Qing Gang managed to make it work, and the first thing that the two watched was some sort of martial arts action flick. Seeing and hearing the commotion on this side of the woods, Bald Head quickly followed to watch alongside them. It looks like Little Panda and Bald Head have very similar tastes in movies. The next thing you know, more and more beasts started gathering. It was starting to look like a proper movie night with friends and brothers. Shingang noticed that these beasts are even way more excited than he is. When the next film entered its climax, it was like a whole mountain has come down to watch. All their attentions were engrossed in the main character's dramatic monologue. The little Iron Eater Panda even wept at the powerful dialogue and acting that he just watched. But their quaint movie night was interrupted by a tab of breaking news opening. It was a nationwide broadcast of Jiaer City being under the looming threat of an ancient creature. The city has already declared a level 1 emergency alert in response. This breaking news immediately caught Iron Eater Panda's attention for some reason. He told Shingang to take a closer look at the news, and he obliged. A transcendent fourth order anomaly has appeared in Hua Xiao's waters, and it will make landfall in Jiaer City within 28 days. A level 1 emergency alert has already been issued almost a month prior to the actual disaster. All citizens will be evacuated to the nearby Chao Sun City for safety. The newscaster announced it once more to emphasize the need for everyone in the nearby area to evacuate the cities near Hua Xiao's waters. In the middle of the broadcast, Iron Eater Panda saw something or someone that made him ask Shingang to pause the video for a moment. When the footage was put on pause, his eyes darted around and eventually focused on a woman with peach-colored hair running away from the chaos with the rest of the city's citizens. Shingang noticed that there was something wrong with the little panda, that he might have seen something in the news broadcast. The always present smile on the cuddly and overconfident panda has vanished, but he told Shingang that nothing's wrong. He kept insisting that it was just nothing, but his beady little eyes were focused on the running peach-haired woman. His mood has taken a whole 180-degree shift from his usual jovial self as he walked away from the supposedly fun-time movie night. Shingang and Bald Head just stared at each other, confused as to why that little panda just changed so drastically. At the northern outskirts, Thorn and the Mantis ant duo were relaxing at the little spiritual pool made by the God Tree. It is the epitome of comfort. White Tiger was also at the edge of the pool, visibly eager to join in on the relaxation. But the God Tree strictly forbids the oversized cat to go in the waters. But White Tiger is to go to the forested area of the northern regions and return only when he finally reaches the second order of transcendence. He knows that this dumb kitty would protest and would not move on his own without being urged to do so, so Yuziu spanked his behind with a vine whip to kickstart the training arc. After bathing in the spiritual pool for a while now, Sparky emerged from the pristine water feeling something coming, a feeling that he is very familiar with. God Tree had also seen this scene many times before, if he was not mistaken. Sparky is evolving again. It was a quick and painless process that made Sparky a lot more chiseled and menacing. His second order transcendence enhanced his power, overturned innate ability, enhancing his raw strength and potential. He also gained strength absorption, strength multiplication, and the flashy dark golden wings for an increase in speed. Thorn swooned at how handsome the golden ant has become. Sparky's body has also significantly increased in size. For just being a landlocked assassin, he has gained access to a whole new playing field with the addition of the ability to fly. Sparky faced the God Tree and respectfully proclaimed that he has become stronger yet again. Looking at the skill description of strength multiplication, it allows Sparky to consume a large amount of spiritual to convert into strength that doubles every 10 seconds until his body can no longer bear it. This effect will disappear once hit by an enemy. This is the kind of ability that is just way too good on paper, and I'll have to test it out. Sparky immediately activated the newly acquired technique. He distributed the increasing strength throughout his whole body as he unleashed a punch to the ground. The results were amazing. Just one strike, and it almost looked like a tiny meteor with abnormal force has hit the heart of the icy northern region. As of now, he can only strengthen himself 2 times in the span of 20 seconds. Anything higher than that is already pushing it. He knows that his body would not be able to handle it yet. After that test, Iron Eater Panda has surprisingly arrived back at the northern outskirts. His wide smile has returned as he hiked back into this mountainous region. The Celestial Earth's enigmatic flower immediately felt consciousness now that the guy that she deemed handsome has arrived unexpectedly. While she was blushing profusely, Little Panda saw Sparky's current state, and he praised the ant for evolving and not only getting stronger but becoming even more attractive and chiseled as well. Complimenting your homies for becoming more attractive. Little Panda is a real one. As much as the little panda would like to test out Sparky's new strength in a fight, today is not the day for that as he came here specifically for the fox. Ninetails has been lounging around the God Tree's branches, awaiting any of her master's orders when the little panda started challenging her in a match out of nowhere. The proud Fire Fox listened to that declaration of spar and just raised her chin while thinking of a response. She then jumped down to the ground and faced the panda eye to eye. That must mean that it is on. You did not stop this fight from happening. On the contrary, he even encouraged it as he asked the bystanders to place their bets. The odds for Ninetales winning are quite good, and the same cannot be said for the little panda. The Iron Eater has waited for a long time to have an opportunity to challenge the strongest beast within the God Tree's generals. He has always wanted to know what it feels like for a proud and powerful warrior like Ninetales to be stepped on by a humble, cuddly little panda. Ninetales remained unfazed by the smack talk though. Instead of being taunted and provoked, she just stood her ground. Because she has also thought about that same thought regarding the overconfident panda. She's not going to take this fight easy. She's going full force, activating the scorching heat of the blazing surge right off the bat. The same goes for Iron Eater Panda. He entered his fiery form without hesitation. God Tree saw this and immediately took all the nearby audience under his roots and activated the pure defense of crystallization. They should not get close to this fight. It could be life-threatening to even just watch this. They are really going to go all out right from the start, and you does not like where this is going at all. Ninetales' body is now covered with scorching heat. She looked rabid and ready to pounce at any second. Iron Eater Panda was also burning hot at the moment. For the first time ever, he was wearing a serious expression and not his usual confident smile. In the northern outskirts of the region, the definition of using fire against fire in a battle is about to go underway. Ninetales made the first move, leaving an indent of her paws on the ground through sheer force. Little Panda did not dare to blink for a second on account of the opponent's lightning-fast speed. But as hard as he tried to keep his vision wide open, his sight was not able to keep up with the Fire Fox. She was already behind him, the prime spot for an effective opening attack. That renowned speed really was ridiculous. Things had only started, and Little Panda was already being forced to block using his body petrification. The collision of a fast attack and a hard defense produced a massive boom in the makeshift battlefield. Yuziu blocked Thorn and the rest using his branch. The supposedly friendly spar between the two powerhouses is worrying to watch. The God Tree is starting to sweat a little now. He cannot afford to lose one or both of his most capable fighters in an internal fight. Ninetales' claw was promptly blocked by the little panda's tiny hands. He kept on repeatedly murmuring to himself that this is the only way. For some reason, he was determined to give it his all in this fight, and that manifested to the congregation of power in his glowing fist. Ninetales was left wide open when her claw was easily blocked. She might have to take this powered-up punch up front. Every strike in this battle felt like being hit by a truck if that truck was falling from the sky, that is. After landing a clean punch right in the fox's body, Little Panda continued his bummed rush with a grave expression. He sent her flying for a couple of miles, and now he's trying to catch up and deliver some more blows while she's down. He has come so close to closing the gap only to get halted by the sudden increase in spiritual energy activity where the fox was supposed to be lying down injured. Little Panda's plan to wrap this up quickly does not seem to be going well at all. Ninetales has levitated off the ground, unscathed and full of raging flames. She looked like a goddess of fire in the form of a fox. No words were needed to be exchanged, she just animalistically growled at the little panda. He watched her as his field of view becomes slowly consumed by the bright light of fire. Little Panda was frozen in place, forced to eat up the flamethrower-type attack raw. The attack not only melted the snow covering the forests of the northern region, but it also completely burned them down in a blaze of glory. In the middle of what looks like an inferno, a massive forest fire was a lone fox standing on a stone platform. God Tree watched the burning down in the woods from afar, certain that these two fighters actually want to kill each other at this point. Ninetales knew that her attack was on the level of a kill shot, but she could not help but feel as though she was somehow tricked. The fire that she just unleashed to the world was slowly coalescing into one spot. It was forming a little ball of pure blazing energy, and it was growing fast. In the middle of the sphere was the little panda. He activated his technique, the giant fireball, in time to surge with the power of flames. His scorching fireball devours everything, including other sources of fire. Even the God Tree himself did not expect that the little guy had the ability to do something like this, to essentially make fire-based attacks null by absorbing its essence. After sucking up all the heat from the area, Little Panda looks as though he was ready for round 2. In fact, his aura has jumped up to another level. Absorbing all that scorching power had almost driven him insane. The Mr. Nice Guy easygoing Panda was gone. It was just Crazy Eyes Panda now. Ninetales' mouth was still smoking from all the firepower she just deployed, but even she did not expect that the fight would progress to this point. Yuziyu was certain that if he lets this clash continue, this whole island, the outskirts of the northern region, will be destroyed in a blaze of glory. He had just sent one of his dragon roots in the middle of the battlefield to stop the spar when Little Panda interjected to concede the win to Nine Tails. His easygoing smile has also returned. The little guy looked genuinely impressed as he praised Nine Tails for being super strong. As expected of the premier general of the God Tree, everyone's big sister. She looks as though she was not satisfied with how they are about to end this fight, though. Yuziyu felt like he dodged a catastrophe-sized bullet now that the little guy has admitted defeat before things got out of hand. Now he's just confused as to what was really going on. With the limited time that they've been with the panda, this sudden shift in attitude is not the little guy's style at all. Nine Tails does not want to let this feud go half-cooked. She asked the little panda what the hell he was doing. He was the one that initiated the fight, but now that they are about to seriously go at it, he was the first one to pull out. She was confused and frustrated. The Iron Eater Panda remained reasonable and apologized for starting trouble. He just wanted to know if he could win against a powerful opponent by himself. That was all. He then turned to the God Tree and asked if they could go somewhere private as he has some things that he wants to discuss confidentially. Under the bright moonlight, Yuziyu carried the little guy using one of his roots to one of the quieter sides of the island. God Tree asked the little guy if he really thinks that he can't beat someone as strong as Nine Tails. Little Panda is not unreasonable. He can admit inferiority when he sees someone stronger. But that was not what the Iron Eater Panda wanted to talk about. He wanted to ask the God Tree how strong is a transcendent fourth-order being, and whether someone as strong as God Tree himself could defeat higher-order anomalies. Yuziyu thought for a bit and answered honestly that he could maybe pull it off if he gave it his all. At the end of the day, they won't know until they try. Little Panda also wanted to know what it feels like to challenge opponents even stronger than oneself. God Tree explained that fear probably dominates the most. The moment you become afraid of death, everything becomes meaningless. No matter how strong Yuziyu is, facing a stronger opponent still makes him like everyone else. When asked if this is really what Little Panda wanted to talk about in private, he replied with a laugh, insisting that he's just making casual chat. Yuziyu wanted to take this chance to ask one question nagging him for a long time. He wanted to know why this little guy always carries a flute with him. It's a mystery if he can even play it. According to the Iron Eater Panda, his friend dropped it in the zoo during the spiritual energy recovery period, doing so while trying to escape from the pursuit of the anomalous beasts. It has always been a goal of his to return it to her in person. God Tree then gave his stance on humans. He doesn't like them. They are foolish, selfish, arrogant. They always have the chance to grow through failure. Yet they keep on repeating the mistakes of history repeatedly. They are perpetually stuck in a vicious and never-ending cycle of messing up. When it comes to humans, God Tree just cannot bring himself to trust them. But there are always a few exceptions. There are a few that are worthy of giving your life for. But he wanted to emphasize that there are only a rare few of them out there. Little Buddy was raised by humans. Because of that experience around them, he sometimes feels that the God Tree himself is so much like a human. That sentiment did not go well with Yuziyu. He was born human after all. But he has already decided to discard that past and grow with the family that he has cultivated as a higher being. Little Panda continued that whether it's in the way the God Tree does things, the way he talks, or the commands he gives, sometimes is also very human-like. As he stands up, he reiterated the fact that humans aren't all bad either. As far as he's concerned, the people that he knows belong to the exceptions that the God Tree spoke of. He then asked the God Tree what would happen if he became friends with humans. He wanted to know if Yuziyu would kill him if he chose to stand on their side. God Tree just looked at the little panda with contemplative eyes for a moment. Then he shot him a glance of shock. After a few more moments of contemplation, Yuziyu had an answer to the little panda's heady question. No, he would not kill him simply for the fact that they had become friends, family even, and the God Tree knew that it was not in the panda's nature to outrightly harm them. Hearing that very human answer to his question stunned the little guy for a bit. Somehow, he was already expecting something along those lines, and a genuine smile crept up on his furry face. He pulled out the flute and asked the God Tree if it liked listening to music. Without waiting for an answer, he placed the flute in his mouth, preparing to play it for the first time in a while. At that moment, the little panda looked as though he was glowing with the light of life itself. The Iron Eater Panda played a beautiful tune that made the surroundings brighter and full of life. Yuziyu closed his eyes, experiencing the beauty of the Iron Eater Panda's music throughout his gigantic body. It was not only him who was affected by the beauty of the music. Thorn, Sparky, and the Mantis were sitting on the God Tree's roots when they heard the gorgeous tune. Nine Tails and the Polar Bear King stopped in their tracks to enjoy the hymn full of vitality. Who would have thought that the cocky little brat could play the flute in a way that could move the emotions of beasts? Under the bright moonlight of this ordinary night, the northern island was filled with sounds that made everyone feel something deep in their hearts. After that moving concert in the night, the Iron Eater Panda went on his way, walking on the paved path of the snowy region. He had moved quite far from where he was. Now he glanced at the place where the god tree had rested its roots at the moment. Memories of his adventures with the members of the Misty Mountain flooded his mind. He could not help but feel a little emotional as he quietly bid farewell to everyone. But as he was about to continue his journey to go somewhere else, an unlikely beast cut him off. Ninetales, the little pandas, and everyone else's big sister had come while clutching some flasks in her mouth. She tossed the flasks in her mouth, and the little panda promptly caught them. Upon closer inspection, the little panda was surprised to see that the contents of these flasks were the god tree's life essence. Yuziyu tasked Ninetales to bring this to the panda on the way out of the area. The god tree already knew that the little guy had made his choice just based on their conversation earlier, that he was leaving. Ninetales also had something to say before the little panda went off to God knows where. In her mind, their battle earlier did not count, so, no matter what happens, they should have another match someday. The little panda fell silent for a moment, feeling the weight of his big sister's words and the thought behind God Tree gifting him some precious life essences. This did not make his decision to leave waver. It made it even stronger. It was as if there was an unspoken trust between him, the God Tree, and Ninetales that no matter what happens or what decision they make, their bond would never be broken. While little panda was going on his solo mission, let's turn our attention to the wreckage of a sprawling coastal metropolis. The once prosperous city was now a hellscape of fire, debris, dust, and destruction. This type of scene had been becoming a lot more common these days. Humans just could not catch a break at all. No matter how much they prepared, how many panzer tanks they deployed, how many transcendent soldiers they cultivated, nothing worked against the might of transcendent anomalies causing mayhem in their cities. This time, it was not just your run-of-the-mill overgrown beasts that were responsible for all the devastation. It was the fourth-order transcendent ancient anomaly that had finally made its landfall. It literally made its own runway by mowing down skyscrapers and roads along its wake. To make matters worse, something with the ability to control the tides had also come out of the depths, conjuring an impromptu tsunami in the process. The waves were so massive that they managed to overrun and flood high-rise buildings that were supposed to be flood-proof. The ancient beast was not the culprit for this destruction. Something else was causing a different type of obliteration, and humans were taking the L as usual. Now that the Bay Area of the once prosperous city had been flooded with floods so high they swallowed every building in sight, the culprit could now emerge from the ocean. As if one anomaly was not bad enough, another fourth-order transcendent had emerged to cause chaos. This time, it was the colossal Leviathan Monarch. Surprisingly, its target did not seem to be human settlement. It was eyeing its fellow fourth-order being, the Ancient Beast. This time, the monster did not hesitate to open its gaping maw immediately. The Leviathan Monarch leaped out of the water for a kaiju battle. For some reason, these two powerful beings wanted to murk each other, and their chosen battlefield was a human city. For a change, the chaos of war was not focused on the Misty Mountain area this time around. The residents were just engrossed in watching a nature documentary about the mating season of caterpillars. The newest and biggest craze in the Misty Mountains was the movie nights that Shingang set up. It was a quaint little activity that all the beasts loved doing together. Even the stoic demon cow had been roped in. Shingang did not expect that his efforts to get some entertainment up in here would be such a huge hit. Meanwhile, at the Northern Islands, White Crane had finally made another appearance. He was supposed to be heading to where the God Tree was, but the massive body of their boss was nowhere to be seen at all. White Crane was confused until Yuziyu's massive body started appearing again after he activated Gigantification. He was testing out new powers, and White Crane had been caught in his experiments once again. His massive and imposing frame reappeared where he was supposed to be stationed, just like before. Only now, something was definitely different. His Gigantification ability might be a tad bit too effective to the point of dwarfing the coast. He did not know that the ability would make him this big, way too big to the point of covering the entire island itself. Nevertheless, this experimentation had yielded pretty good results. He could now do something truly extraordinary. He could grow or shrink his size now. That was all thanks to the divine skill of size mastery. It allowed the user to manipulate their own size while retaining their original power using spiritual energy as a transformation trigger. He could maximize the ability to the point of towering over the harsh mountains of the northern region. The view from up there was breathtaking, to say the least. The God Tree continued moving around while laughing like a child. On the way, It felt like he just bumped into something, but he could not care less. The divine flower had broken through the second order of transcendence, and the little white snake had done so as well. They just watched as their boss had too much fun with his new ability. Back in the city, the Leviathan monarch did not look too good at all. Blood had started dripping from its gigantic mouth and pooling inside its malevolent eyes. After a grueling battle between the two out-of-this-world anomalies, the ancient creature looked to have come out on top, but the Leviathan monarch put up a brutal fight, wounding the creature to the point of looking like a bloodied onion. The ancient creature was animalistic to the extreme. It just viewed the Leviathan monarch as prey to be consumed after they fought with their lives on the line. The ancient creature started swiftly digesting the fourth-order transcendent beast, and new power quickly started coursing throughout its body. It sucked in even stronger and faster, taking the whole thing in from the head to the ends.
What did he say?
Until finally, the ancient creature looked as though it had taken on the form of the Leviathan monarch, manifesting the beast's physical traits upon itself. It had broken through to the point of attaining the peak of transcendent fourth order, just a few steps away from the fifth. In a zoo somewhere in one of the human cities, a lion escaped from its cage. Every zoo personnel quickly scrambled to get the tranquilizer gun before anyone was harmed. Back then, the Iron Eater panda was just a baby panda bear, innocently gnawing on some bamboo shoots. He was just living his life until the loose lion showed up in his enclosure, immediately activating his fight or flight response. Flight prevailed. The lion was angry and hungry as it roared at the top of its lungs. As the young Iron Eater panda was about to be an accidental lion lunch, a woman with peach-colored hair stepped up to guard him with her body. Fortunately, the zoo personnel found the tranquilizer gun on time to put the loose lion to sleep before anyone was hurt. With the lion down for the count, the zoo staff were finally able to jump in and make sure that everyone was alright. Peach-colored hair woman might be brave, but the intensity of that situation almost scared her to death. The strength from her legs was drained after that encounter. But instead of worrying about herself, the first thing she did was turn to the tiny helpless panda, thinking that the little guy must have been so terrified. That panda's name was Chi Z. Now he goes by Iron Eater Panda, and he is on a mission. He walked from the northern region up to where he is right now. Little Panda is now approaching his hometown, Jiaer City. All they asked in a silent prayer is for that woman to survive, for Xiao Ai to stay strong. She means a lot to the little guy. And right now, Jiaer City is under the threat of an anomaly that humans have never experienced before, which means Xiao Ai is in mortal danger. It took Little Panda a month to reach his destination while Godtree stayed and handled business on the extreme weather of the Northern Islands. White Tiger has finally come out of the harsh mountains of the area. His human tongue still needs a lot of work. The only phrase he can speak was hurry, find master or everyone will die, a phrase he learned back in the Misty Mountain War. Now that he has the nerve to fly back to the side of the boss, that must mean that White Tiger has broken through. The fierce beast has finally lived up to his potential and reached the second tier of transcendence. Yuzu praised the kitty cat for achieving an impressive feat after putting his mind into it. White Tiger is a sucker for compliments like that. Sparky was also there to congratulate the tiger in his own unimpressed and competitive way. Even the newest member of the group, the Divine Flower, easily and accidentally broke through the second order while White Tiger had to endure the harshness of the wilderness. To beat up the already bruised ego of the White Tiger, the little white snake has also broken those second tier easily. Polar Bear King doesn't even see the second tier as something special. Every sentence coming out from these monsters with better potential than him was like punch after punch in his confidence. Even Godtree felt bad as the kitty cat flew away with his spirit crushed. This month has been good for them. Everyone has experienced a qualitative leap, and their overall strength has increased by a lot. He himself has awakened a brand new mini-divine skill too. With Ice Age, he can instantly freeze the land, ocean, and skies. He also broke through the 8 million mark of spiritual power level. They've nearly absorbed all the minerals underground, and the last few remaining ones can be harvested for the younger beasts. Right now, the Gorilla Legion is guarding the northern borders, and when the time comes, the Arctic White Bear Legion can take their place. It's also time for the Godtree to return to the Misty Mountains after this brief excursion in the north. Little Panda has been gone for a month. You could only wonder if the little guy found his friend. He used to annoy Godtree so much, but now he strangely misses the rascal. He can only hope that the troublemaking panda doesn't run into danger, but his hopes were in vain. Little Panda is in a world of hurt right now. He's gritting his teeth in pain, but the situation has been getting grimmer by the second. It's only natural though. The lone Iron Eater Panda decided to go 1 versus 1 against the 4th Order ancient monster after all. And even though he was constantly on the back foot, he managed to make the godlike being bleed. In the Misty Mountains, Qin Gang has embraced the role of providing everyone entertainment. Right now, everyone in the stronghold has come to appreciate the projector. At the moment, they're watching funny cartoons. They haven't watched cartoons in a while, but Bald Head is out here requesting that they watch Animal World instead. While looking at his phone, Qin Gang saw another breaking news about the major outbreak that has reached Jia City. He suddenly remembered that this was the news that Ninth Brother Panda was concerned about before. Qin Gang immediately clicked the article to see what's up. It was a broadcast of the situation in the city. It looks like someone is trying to save the people of the city only to get captured. The caster dejectedly announced that humanity's last hope has been shattered as the ancient creature lifts a tiny figure wearing a cape. If Qin Gang wasn't mistaken, that figure was way too familiar. The broadcast zoomed in further, but the lighting was too poor. Even without seeing it clearly, every beast in the Misty Mountain would recognize that fuzzy guy's figure anywhere. It was their ninth brother Iron Ear Panda, beaten up to an unrecognizable state, about to be a meal for the ancient anomaly. In the Northern Islands, Godtree was not aware of the things happening at Jia City at the moment. He was just minding his own business when someone came through. It was Qin Gang. He used his elemental form to travel as fast as he could to notify their boss what was happening. He was exasperated as he urgently reported Little Panda's situation while tears flowed down from his eyes. Everyone heard his report and was frozen in place. The news hit them like a ton of bricks. That was their ninth brother. Even the silly white tiger and the polar bear king newcomer felt anger and worry coursing through their veins. Ninetails was usually composed, but even her aura started leaking from her body as she heard the news. Yu's tone shifted to that of a grim tenor as he ordered everyone to return to the Misty Mountains. They need to call everyone back. One of their own is in a precarious situation. They need to mobilize everyone right away as Little Panda slowly loses consciousness. The anomalous ancient creature has made the biggest mistake of its life without knowing. Godtree's aura has turned malevolent from all the negative emotions he was feeling. It's time for them to go on an all-out war for one of their own. There are only 10 days left until the final battle between the Godtree and the ancient creature. Back in the first spiritual energy recovery period, the most affected area in urban settings was zoos. The animals started going crazy, breaking out of their enclosures with their newfound strength. All the people who went to the zoo to have a good time were now running away for their lives. But Xiaoai was different. She was running right into the thick of it. The bearded zookeeper tried to warn her that going that way would make her animal food, but she didn't listen at all. The only thing on this brave woman's mind was Chi-Zi, the tiny helpless panda scared in his enclosure. Chi-Zi is still in there, cowering in confusion and fear, in the middle of the danger. The first thing that the zoo lion did after awakening its latent spiritual energy was to look for the helpless panda bear that he failed to feast on back then. For just a normal lion, it has evolved into something much stronger to the point that these flimsy wooden enclosures were like paper to him. With nowhere to hide anymore, Chi-Zi just lay down while his little round body trembled in terror of what was about to happen. The hungry lion beast immediately pounced on the poor little panda bear as if it was running out of time. Chi-Zi, with a wound on his forehead from the loose wooden debris, could only stare in horror as the jaw of an apex predator closed in on his tiny frame. Xiaoai managed to arrive in time once again. She won't let anything bad happen to the little fellow. She took a rake and hit the awakened lion's enormous body with it. That was a very bad move. Now, the lion's attention turned to her. This beast still hasn't forgotten what happened on that one day that he managed to break free from his enclosure. But Xiaoai bravely stood her ground even though she could die at any moment now. She's doing this just so little Chi-Zi can have the window to run away. But the little guy can't even move from where he was standing. The little baby was stressed out of his mind, and he couldn't even take one step away. The awakened lion has now fully pivoted its target towards the woman that dared to hit him with a rake. That incident ended in a bullet being shot. This time, it was not a tranquilizer. Let's fast forward a little bit to the time when the Iron Eater Panda has just reached the inside of the devastated Jia City. The first place that he checked upon arriving was the Blackbird Society Zoo. Everything has been reduced to rubble. Even the roads have been destroyed. He could only quietly murmur to himself that he's back, but there was no one to welcome him home. The city has gone deathly silent while being surrounded by unidentified massive sharp formations. There isn't a single person in sight. Everyone has either run away, hidden, or died. What's strange is that he hasn't encountered the gigantic ancient creature yet. But his idea that there wasn't a single person in the city anymore seems to be false as he heard a small voice coming from behind the ruins of the zoo. It was a little boy. His clothes in tatters, he looks as though he hasn't had a meal in forever, and now he's hurt. After going through the trouble of scavenging throughout the ruined city, he finally found something edible to fill his empty stomach. He's been starving for quite a while now. That was when the little panda jumped up to the walls and interrogated the kid about who he is and why he's in his house. The kid naturally jumped in fright at the sight of a monster, let alone a monster that's asking him questions in human tongue. But the two eventually found out that they are no threat to each other. The kid just freaked out thinking he was about to become monster food. Little Panda just told the kid that he's looking for someone and ended up in this area even though this place has been declared as a red zone now. He asked the kid what happened to the monster that was wrecking the city to bits, and as far as the child knows, it just up and vanished yesterday out of nowhere. It was battling an orca beast before, and that intense fight easily submerged half the city. That's the type of aftermath when anomalies battle it out. When asked why a kid is still in the city, the boy answered that they tried to evacuate in time but couldn't make it. Massive obstacles appeared and blocked the roads, then surrounded the entire city. The boy got separated from his family, then the giant appeared and wiped out the army. So many people died that day, and this boy witnessed all that. Everything's in chaos, yet the boy is still running around like this. When asked if he's afraid of dying, the kid just replied that every survivor has been trapped for a month without supplies. He wants to survive and doesn't want to starve to death, so he ventured out. He's still holding on to the hope of reuniting with his family. This boy kept on saying these things as if it was nothing, but the weight behind it wasn't lost on Panda. Under one of the rundown buildings is a government bunker where survivors have taken refuge. The people from the zoo were among the first ones that the government protected as they understand the habits of monsters. The kid took Panda by the hand to lead him to the bunker as there are pandas there too, so it should be a problem for the security to let him in. But little guy doesn't want to go there yet. The rest of the way should be safe, so he wanted the kid to go to safety by himself. That confused the little boy. This panda continuously yacked about being eager to see the zookeeper lady after all. It might be the case, but he doesn't have the courage to face her, at least not yet. There are things that he must do, and once everything is over, he promised to find everyone. That is if he's still alive after all's said and done. The kid could only sigh as the little panda went on his own way. He screamed at the unlikely friend he made in the ruined city to not die as they will be waiting for him to come back. Hearing that made Iron Eater Panda's smile come back, only to get forcefully erased once again as a giant tendril smacked the little boy flat on the ground. When he turned around to see, he realized that the ancient creature wasn't gone at all, it was under the city. He slowly turned his head behind, afraid of what he knows he was about to see. The little boy has been swatted like a bug, a kid that just wanted to eat some cup noodles and reunite with his family. His little life slowly started fading away after being splatted by a fourth-order transcendent anomaly. Little Panda felt the world stop for a second. Just a moment ago, he made an unlikely friend in an unlikely place. Now, the monster that destroyed the city is trying to take that away from him as well. The ancient creature was just resting down underground, waiting for the next phase of his path to mindless destruction. Little Panda immediately darted to the boy, taking out one of the life essence flasks and forcefully getting it to the kid's system. The kid was teetering at the edge of death's door. It would take a miracle to bring him back. Fortunately, Godatree's essence is a miracle in liquid form. The kid's injuries, no matter how severe, were healed immediately. Little Panda was just in time. But now, the ancient creature has fully awakened, and they're the only ones in its vicinity. Iron Eater Panda hurriedly told the kid to run away as this ancient beast is the target he's been looking for.